Welcome to the Protector Culture Podcast with Jimmy Graham. Jimmy is a veteran U.S. Navy SEAL, a former protective officer for the CIA Global Response Staff, founder and CEO of the Able Shepherd Program, a husband and father of 4, and a personal friend of mine. Now here's Jimmy.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Protector Culture Podcast with Jimmy Graham. I am your host, Jimmy Graham. Joining BK and myself, he's making us cut up in the back right before we kick off, are some amazing friends of mine. I'm calling this one the Out-of-Towners. You like that? See what I did with that? So we've got Nick Higgins, Able Shepherd 075. How you doing, sir?
I am doing well.
Glad to hear it. And again, back for some more punishment, Jason Campbell, Able Shepherd 086, a.k.a. the 86er.
The 86er?
How are you?
I'm well, sir. Nick, by the way, you're looking good.
I appreciate it.
If you are listening on a podcast, you're wrong. You need to go to protectorculture.com and watch the video. All right, guys. So tell me about today. What's today? What's the climate? We took a little break from the podcast. We've been putting some stuff out on social media, but right now we're kind of hitting it back. Today is January 19th. What's the climate right now?
The world has lost its mind.
True statement.
Hear, hear.
Today was is it called a farewell address? I think that's what it was that I looked at it. President Trump addressed the nation on, I saw it on some kind of website because I'm not sure he's allowed to talk to folk because he's been censored. That's part of the climate.
I thought inclusion was part of the climate.
Tolerance.
All of it.
Love.
Scary state of affairs. I'm going to get into let's just go right to that one. What does 2021 have in store for us? I'm going to pull this question, copy paste right to the top. Can you turn that off to the back? 2021. This will be an interesting year. I'm already seeing, we're not even to Inauguration Day tomorrow. There is National Guard manning the Capitol like I've never seen, like anybody's ever seen before. Obviously, there was an attack on the Capitol where they were pretty much led into the Capitol to walk around. They looked like tourists between the red ropes, but it was violently overrun. There was broken windows glass and all that stuff. Don't want to belittle that, but I've seen embassies and the like overrun, and it doesn't look like that. So that is suspect in my mind, whatever you want to do with that. Already starting to get a flood of things about attacking guns, going after guns, magazines, tax on ammo, all of that. What do we have to look forward to in 2021?
Well, go, Nick.
It depends on...
I just fully flicker over to the first timer. Hey, first time caller, long time listener.
Right. How's the seat?
I guess it depends on who you're listening to and who's going to be president after the 20th. So if Mr. Biden and his lovely vice president become reality, I think we are in for a scary ride. And for those who are in panic mode, I'm just going to throw this plug out there that you better come to know Jesus pretty quick.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you're going to be a brain full of spaghetti.
Absolutely. And I want to throw this out there because I am awkwardly excited about that opportunity. Now, the way I put it the other day, it just kind of fell out of my mouth. It's like you've been panning for, as a Christian man, it's like you've been panning for little nuggets, tiny little dust of gold for 20 years, and you walk over on a hill and it's sitting on the ground, just ready to go pick it up. People are more primed to hear about Jesus than I've ever seen. I was invited to speak this past, last week about, or at an event I knew very little about, and I thought it was more about preparation, self-defense. It was a group of men in suburbia. It was in a neighborhood. Get there, see a bunch of trucks, cars, bunch of pickups, and then a garage door that's halfway open. I'm like, must be the place. Duck in there. 20 guys, Bibles open, ready for guest speaker guy. to come in with zero agenda whatsoever because I didn't even know. Said, hey, can you be there and talk to these guys? Yes. They're like, hey, you're the guest speaker. You're up. Okay.
Yeah.
And it was called, let me get this right, Brothers, Bibles, and Beer. And they all grab a beer and they sit down and they just talk about life. A guest speaker comes in and there's Q&A that probably went about an hour and a half. I just kind of talked about how I came to become where I'm at, a little bit of a testimonial / story, just history of Abel Shepherd and all that stuff. Fantastic. Tons of excellent questions. No fear whatsoever, but concern, obviously, just by good men. And then I said, if you care to stay, we're going to start our Bible study now. Absolutely. Let me get my Bible out of my truck. Came back and sat down and hung out with these guys. Those are being born, I believe, throughout the nation right now.
Yep.
And if it took a little anxiety and crazy talk to get it there, then so what? Then so be it. And I've said this, and I don't say it lightly. If that let perseverance do its work in full. Like it can't change overnight right now because we won't fix anything. It's got to sting. It's got to sting way more than this. And in that regard, it is there is a silver lining there. So that's my hope, that it'll hurt bad enough for us to actually focus and fix it.
You know, that's interesting. I would say that for Christians, that your last comment around, because I agree with you, where I think it's got to sting more than it does right now. I think if you don't have that perspective, I think, and I'm guessing, but the guessing is anecdotal data accrued over many different sources over the last 4 years plus, that if you're a liberal and even more so leftist, that right now is as bad as it gets. And the birds will chirp, the sun will shine a little brighter once Trump's out of office. And I mean, that's what I see. And I personally think we haven't touched how bad it's going to get. And I think that's probably then what fuels your previous question. What's fueling America to purchase firearms at an unprecedented rate? Because normally an election cycle is good for business in that industry, right?
Right.
And what we've seen in this 1-2 punch between COVID and an election year, and then layer that election year with unconscionable amounts of, we kind of nudged on censorship a little bit. We've nudged on a whole bunch of these topics that we've seen come up over the last 12 months. To me, when I think about the question, what do you think 21 looks like? I thought 20 was going to, 20 kept snowballing in the wrong direction in a way I never would thought citizens of this country would allow.
Yeah.
And if we went that far, that fast, to give up on this amazing constitutional republic, we're willing, and this is going to open a can of a whole bunch of other topics, but we're willing to do, or we're willing to not do just about anything. And that touches on, when I say we're willing to do anything, think about Stand in the Gap initiatives. Mm-hmm. Not only are we willing to do things if we're not Bible-centered, we're willing to do just atrocious things. We don't call them that. We have a whole bunch of other labels, but we don't call them that. And then as Christians, we're willing to not do lots of things because we've had it so easy for so long. We don't know what it's like in the trenches compared to being a Christian overseas. So,
if you, I'm gonna put in a plug for the Jack Hibbs, jackhibbs.com or Calvary Chapel Chino Hills is in searching our community for that leadership specifically. I've seen some amazing pastors that I absolutely respect that kind of kick it into neutral and go to the feel good Christianity. And if I don't want to judge that, because who am I to tell a pastor what God's telling him? I'm just saying, man, I've heard you say a lot of stuff, many, many pastors, about leadership and stepping out and risk and putting it all out there for Jesus. And we are in the battle of our lifetime, against principalities. And then it kicks it into the Any Given Sunday message. Not having it. They're just, I can't do that when you have an opportunity and an obligation and a straight up duty, and your people are looking for leadership. And I get it. You're still trying to say Jesus is really God. Okay, I get all that. And I think a lot of people do. Now those people, not the new guy at the church, and we still got to get those guys and get saved and all this. And there should be an altar call, and there should be a message that ties in there. But now we need leadership. We need forward movement. We need constant action, because I believe, off of what I saw, there was a lot of missed opportunity to speak the truth that cost us an election. Now, that's not their fault. I mean, there's Donald Trump, there's this and that, there's stolen. You can go in all night about that stuff, but all of it played a part.
Sure.
And I think that there could have been just a bigger push that should have come from the pulpit. And if I hear another separation of church and state again, then I think I'm going to headbutt somebody. But that's just so out of context.
It is.
I think that the big tech weapon, I'm sorry, Jack Hibbs of Calvary Chapel, professional leadership. Can I say balls? Balls. Like, it's okay. It's time for Jesus right now. So Jesus plus is not a thing anymore. I heard somebody talk about that. With that, like, hey, if you're going to add, Jesus and this and Jesus, no, just Jesus. Like, it boldly proclaim exactly the truth. Mm-hmm. And if you keep talking around it, then you're going to miss your point. Right. And so are others. And then we end up here. The big tech weapon I can foresee in 2021, that actually being attacked. And we talked about this the other night. It's like you're saying, I want guns to be illegal, but for right now, I'm going to pick up this gun, shoot all of my enemies, throw it on the table, and say guns are illegal. Because now that can be used against them. So now, this weapon that you use to censor the President of the United States can now be used against you. So I can see stocks drop, and I can see sales, I can see all that stuff, because they should be scared. Because if that gets figured out and recouped, and then there should be competition, not a monopoly, saying in this arena, this is the only option for my business, for this, for that. Right. That needs to be corrected, and I believe it will be.
I believe it will be too. One of the examples around the censorship, I back in the early 90s, I had a project in China that also took me through Hong Kong. And it was just before Hong Kong in 1994 went back under Chinese control. And so I'm staying in this hotel in China that it was a very nice hotel, very, very nice 5-star hotel, catered to Westerners. So you could get the Western news channels. And then there was the local news that was going on, and there was an absolute curtain between true activity that was happening not just within China but around the world. There was a huge curtain in between what was actually happening and the narrative that gets told to the Chinese population.
This is what you need to hear. This is what we feel you need to hear.
Yeah. Because they have it in our best interest, right? Right. And so I'm sitting, and I'm on the edge of the bed watching the TV with the remote, and I'm like, there's no way this could happen in the U.S. How can these people not know what's going on?
Right.
It's worse here today than it was in China in 1993. It's worse.
The thing that you say that, and the thing that irritates me is when you look back into history and how they've changed our books in the schools, and they're teaching these kids generation after generation, they keep changing it to believe that narrative.
Right.
But something that we're taught as Christians to be Bereans, and nobody is challenging what they're being told. They're not researching it on their own. It's like it's just being spoon-fed to them. And this is easy, so this is what I'm going to do, instead of doing a little bit of homework. And, geez, wow, I am being lied to.
Right.
Well, that's the scary part. Do your homework means Google it. Like a research means Google it.
Right.
So when people say, well, I tell people, be careful where you get your truth. Like it's not from the Word of God. If you can't, scrub it against that, I'm not sure you shouldn't be, that's not your truth.
Right.
It's some words over here, doesn't hold up, you're gone. But right now I've had many, many conversations with people say, I studied this, I researched this. It means you Googled it. No. I went to page 3, past the lies. What they wrote that too? Like what? You're right. So you're using that as your factual, gospel, if you will, and saying this is the truth, and it's written by a guy you don't know with an agenda you don't understand. Mm-hmm. And again, they pull the right rein, you go right. They pull the left rein, you go left. So that's super dangerous when we're talking about that. Is where to get your truth. Now the narrative to our children. Everybody understands that, but you hit it. That is the thing. And people say, well, they're not in my schools and all that, I ask this to, not everybody I see, whose job is it to protect your kids? They say, it's the police or whatever. No, it's your job, ultimately. Right. Whose job is it to educate your kids? Well, the teacher, we got a good school. It's your job. It is your responsibility, ultimately, to educate your children, meaning that if I pull my kids out of a Christian school and go to a charter school, that leaves a deficit of Jesus that gets picked up by Jimmy Graham and Rachel Graham. Like, we have to teach them this, because the option of them not getting it is not a thing.
Wait.
Please.
You're telling me.
I can feel sarcasm coming right now. Tighten my mic. I'm ready.
As a citizen of this country, it's my job to protect my family. That's on me.
True story.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, sorry about that.
We can talk about it later after the mic's
And you added on education to that.
That
it's my job?
has been taught. I mean, this luxurious.
You're not going to get paid for it either. There's
Sorry.
no stimulus check coming.
Huh. It's funny when you ask people that and they truly have not thought about that before. And they sit there and they look at like, the nerve of this guy. He must not have a job. You know what I mean? It's like in his spare time, he teaches his kids no every single day and whatever. Things like this. This amazes me too. I tell my kids, they're like, your kids are so polite. Because they look at people, and try this. You guys probably do this anyways. Look up human being in the eye when they're going to take your order. You already looked at the menu. You don't need to stare at it. Look at them and say, may I please have blah, blah, blah. Thank you. But everybody do it. You will get the best service you've ever got in your life because you treated them like a human being. And I tell them, listen to what people say. We'll listen to other tables. I'll take, give me a whatever. There's no thank you. That's your job. You serve me. That adds up. I say please to Siri. I know it's weird. I don't want to get out of practice. I don't care. It's like, did you want to do that? Yes, please.
They'll end up making a movie out of that one.
Right.
Oh man, that and I believe that those things I just said on, I don't even know what it was. I think it was MOK maybe yesterday on a live feed. The shopping cart test that boils my blood that people don't take their shopping cart back. It's like, well, it's cold outside and I'm in a hurry. You don't think the dude this ain't his job, by the way. His job's inside. A collateral duty is to go get shopping carts. So it is cold. So he doesn't need to go out and pick up yours. It should be in the thing to make his trip shorter. That irks me because that is just, to me, I could write a thesis on society about people that don't put their cart back. It's in the rocks or it's over here. It's whatever.
Right. It's where you need to park.
It's where you need to park. So now you can, I'm going to roll in and scuff up my, whatever. And the last one, I'll get off my soapbox. I tell my kids, the Grahams don't lie, cheat, or steal. And they go, or litter. Because they know I hate litter. When that stuff's just blowing down the street and it's like weird. Somebody will pick up my stuff and you see them finish their 5th Big Mac of the day and throw the wrapper out the window. America.
It's America.
Is that spelled with a K or a C?
Mercy. All right. Okay. So forgive me. I have no manners. Let's back up for a second. I'd like you guys, if you don't mind, just introduce yourselves. Kind of where you're from, because I call it out-of-towners. Where you guys from? I want to hear about that. What you do for a living, and maybe what the climate's like back home, or at least when you left. Because for people that have just met Jason or Nick, they travel. a great distance, a good distance to come be with us and spend blocks at a time to come and train with the Able Shepherd program. So let's start with Nick.
Oh, I get to go first again.
Yes, sir.
Nick Higgins. I am a concrete contractor back home in Maine. And climate-wise, our governor is off a rocker. The rules, her imaginary laws that she keeps thinking she has well, let me take that back. Our representatives willingly gave her an open-ended date to behave the way she's behaving. And the only way we can get that power back is if we catch her screwing up. So we've our state, and I've traveled up and down the East Coast a bunch of times since this COVID thing has started, and plus this trip out here. And based on what I'm seeing, Maine is extremely liberal in this, and they have, as a whole, have bought this hook, line, and sinker. I've talked to doctors and specialists and all that stuff for the last year, and it's just amazing. I have friends that are in the medical field, and shocking to me, having the education they have and still buying into this. People are attacking each other in the grocery store verbally with insults. And when it comes time to have that conversation, they don't want to hear the truth. They just want to.
And they don't want to talk. They want to yell.
Yeah, they just want to yell, and they don't want to hear anything you have to say. They just want to do their best to embarrass you as they can.
So the same. It's pretty much the same as here.
Yeah,
so
yeah. I actually had that experience here in the
Yeah, yeah. I remember because it was like, welcome to Castle Rock. And then your first experience was like somebody bawling you out.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, what was your last question?
No, just the climate. Like that. That was it.
Yeah, no, it's
so similar.
Yeah,
similar with it. Like, some people wearing masks, some people not.
Yeah.
People losing their mind,
Yeah.
not want to talk about it, wanting to yell their opinion.
We was in Florida before we came here, and completely different climate. The people wearing their masks that wanted to wear a mask or following a business protocol, but there was none of that. It didn't seem like there was any of that attacking going on. And I don't know, I can't remember the governor's name. Is it DeSantis?
Oh, man, I think so.
That sounds right.
DeSantis. I think because of his leadership and letting people make their own decisions, that has changed the atmosphere completely.
Right.
Yeah. I think Ron DeSantis, I think that says a lot about that. The people you put in leadership, and the same thing here. We talk about the instructors. The instructors here are who I want more of. You put this up and say, "Look at this," and yes, we do kind of flow to that. A lot of people do, and then you're surprised when you got a jackwagon governor and you got a bunch of jackwagons running around. You're like, weird.
So weird.
Same question.
Same question.
Same topic, I guess.
A little bit different answer. For those of you that don't know me, my name's Jason Campbell from Missoula, Montana. Have the great fortune of traveling down here with my wife, Leslie, who comes to Able Shepherd and trains in some instances right alongside me. In some instances, she's doing her own thing and doing very well at it. Climate in Montana, climate in Missoula. Missoula, I think, is real similar to here. There's little pockets of no common sense. There's little pockets of people not remembering how to love each other. And then there's pockets of truly beautiful people. And I think probably Missoula compared to once you get more rural, it gets way more relaxed. And it's a big L-shaped drive that I take to come down here. So I'm going across 90 till I get to Billings, and then it drops off. And after I drop south into Wyoming, it's way more relaxed. And which to me, that's what makes sense based on how this whole, I don't even know if it's a virus. I don't know what it is, but this thing that's getting held over us. Mm-hmm. And so I don't know. I think the more rural you get, I think the more realistic people are. I think the denser the populations get. And I don't know, just in terms of answering the question, I don't know how far into that to get, because my wife is in healthcare. She's at the front lines of COVID. All of the testing, all of the vaccination information, all that stuff, she is absolutely at the forefront of that. And I personally believe that what America is getting told through this mass media isn't exactly accurate. And there's political entities in charge when there should be medical experts in charge. So there's county health organizations that are making decisions on what businesses are open or not open, and they're not even following CDC guidelines. And so who holds them accountable?
Right.
Nobody. It's like authoritarian rule over the private sector. And to me, that's insane. It's upside down.
We've talked about this before off mic, and I truly believe that 2020 was this push from the left, and they were just as surprised as anybody else how far the right would go backwards. It's like, okay, they got ready for this thing. And we talked about the line, like with my line's here. And so, no, it's here. No, it's here. And it's way further than I thought it would be. I'm not sure what I thought would happen, but I think they were blown away saying, wow, we got away with that and that. And why didn't we do this years ago? And there was George Floyd. So let's talk about racism. There was this. Let's talk about this. There was all. It is a just free for all of whatever your agenda is. Throw it on the table, and we've got something to cover it.
Yeah.
And then let's scream really loud that you're the guy that does the things that I just did, and the world will believe it. The thing that really scares me is it's working.
It's working.
So like when you steal stuff, you call everybody a thief, and if you say it loud enough, you end up being the thief. You're like, well, what just happened? Like you physically actually steal things. But if you say I'm a thief loud enough, to the world, I just became a thief. Mm-hmm. That's the part where you're like, how do you even get truth back in there?
Yeah. Right is wrong and wrong is right.
Right. However, okay, now I asked that because that was a rhetorical question. And this is the cool part. Wait for it. That was a pause. That was a, what do you call that? BK, what is it?
Pause for effect.
Dramatic pause for effect.
Nice.
As a Christian man, this validates everything I believe. Which means, like, have you ever thought, like, okay, David and Goliath, I get all this stuff, and I kind of get it, but I'm probably not going to see this in my lifetime. I don't think that anymore. Like, you're like, everything, like, when you read, the eyes of the blind will be, the eyes of the wicked will be blinded, meaning they can't see. I see that in front of me. We just said it. You could be looking at this and not see the same thing I'm seeing. And literally, like, really, are people really going to vote for dark over light, for evil over good? Come on. They're not stupid. And then you go, wow, they are voting for dark over light. Like the darkness, the scare, all this stuff over light, like actual light. Mm-hmm. And you guys know where I stand on pro-life.
Oh, yeah.
Like, let's kill more babies. The kind of sick joke here in Castle Rock, Douglas County, was save the wolves, kill the babies. Because we were voting to save wolves, and that passed, and voting to kill more babies. Like, what is happening right now?
Right.
So that couldn't be a bigger validation, saying that book that we say we believe couldn't be more spot on. Get to work. Roll your sleeves up. Here we go. So that part, when you think of it that way, it is a challenge, and you're like, okay, put your mouthpiece in.
Yeah.
it's a new year. Left breast pocket. That's right.
It kind of
snap it in.
I agree with that. And when I think about 2020, that year was chaos for a whole lot of families and a whole lot of America.
Yeah.
To me, I can see all that, but I can also more clearly see what you just talked about, where it's the landscape is fitting exactly what the Bible has lined out for us and been validated through so many distinct elements of prophecy. Just keeps getting more and more and more and more validated. And the more validated it gets, it means the environment around us is getting more crazy. While that's happening, it's like I'm getting more comfortable because to me, the path is pretty obvious and I feel really good about the space I'm in.
Yeah.
And I feel incredible about the space my family's in.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel amazing about how this community, the Able Shepherd community, and I don't know if we can get into this part of the conversation, but to me that ties to, does Jason and his wife decide to drive 1,000 miles away from home during the craziest political time in the history of this country, when I'm sure you guys are getting all kinds of crazy stuff like I'm getting?
Oh yeah.
Everything from grid down to
hurry up and get home
to riots to all of that, right? And so then here I am making the decision. I think I'm heading south. Yeah. I might need a barrel of diesel, but I'm going to head south.
You've heard of that for churches? Like, hey, people are going to vote with their feet. Like, if they don't like it, they're going to walk out of here. You voted with your Sprinter van.
Yeah, I did.
So you're like, hey, what are we doing here? Yeah. I guess we're pointing it towards Denver.
You say that. And how many people, not just non-believers, but Christians, voted on feeling instead of voting on biblical principles?
That's right.
Every one that I know of that voted Democrat as a Christian, it was because they didn't like Trump.
Yeah,
it had nothing to do with his policy. I don't know Trump from a hole in the ground other than what I hear through gossip and rumor. Is he a bad man? Yeah, maybe he is. Maybe I would never like him if I was ever to meet him. But his policies line up biblically, and they line up for what's best for this country, constitutionally or whatever. And then you flip that to Biden, and kind of back to what you touched on a little bit about the church and being bold. Part of my frustration is I go to Calvary Chapel, and we're known for scripture, chapter by chapter. And when it comes to Resurrection Sunday or Christmas, there's usually a special sermon on those two holidays. Yeah. Well, when it comes time to vote, not all of them, but a good part of them, why aren't we talking about educating our flock on not necessarily vote for this person, but how to investigate, to compare how they line up with the Bible?
Yeah.
So that you're sending your flock out educated to know how to vote.
Yeah.
And then I lost my train of thought.
We kind of talked about this. So I think that, and you guys know, I don't let President Trump off that easy.
Right.
Just for accountability. Voting your values, absolutely. Like you must, like that is your duty from the pulpit to say, vote your values, period. You know who I'm talking about? I don't have to say the names. We can play that game all day long. But are you voting to kill babies? Yes or no? Are you voting for that was easy. But I've heard people say, well, he's accomplished more than any other president in the history of ever. And I say that's true. I believe ever. I don't know. Maybe Lincoln did some pretty cool stuff. Whatever. Right. I'm just, George Washington. He did some stuff. So I don't know about ever, but you can't argue the success of that presidency. But on the flip side, he's never fumbled more than an American president in the history of ever. I mean, you lost to a cadaver. It blows my mind that Joe Biden is going to be our president. The gaffe guy from 2 years ago. The guy you're like, oh my gosh, did you hear it? It was comical. I wanted to search them out and hear them. I'm like, poor, whoever he offended today or sniffed their hair or whatever. Right. That guy won. I get it. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. That guy's going to be a president. He's going to have a place as an American president. Kind of like this is the best we got.
Right.
Does that sting anybody else's frickin' soul?
Absolutely.
That's right.
But all he had to do, in my opinion, if he would have been decent, somebody said today, the speech that he gave, if he would have spoke like that, he would still be the president of the United States. Because people hated a man more than they loved this country.
Yep.
For the first time that I know of in American history, they hated a man more than they loved America and its freedoms. That's his fault. 100%. I think line up and punch me in the face or whatever. That is his fault. Right. And it's almost like they're like, well, I'm a pastor and Jesus speaks to me. You know who else Jesus speaks to? Me. I spend time with Jesus and it bothers me. It feels like, not that I'm Samuel going to David and saying, look, you're the guy. You're the one that did this.
Right.
Tighten up. The nation needs you right now and you're a clown. Tighten up. You could do this. The easiest thing that we could do right now is for President Trump to humble himself and lead this country back to a biblical foundation. Period. Because there's nobody else. I can't think of somebody else with that kind of, charisma, the MAGA movement, all that kind of stuff. All you got to do is be an adult. Period. That's it. And we would be there. Because I feel like your pride is why my children will pay for your lack of friggin' decency.
Yeah, almost like a Saul.
Yeah.
Seeing you're going to Saul and saying, "You're done, buddy. We got somebody new coming in."
Right. And if and if that's not the case, and his part is over, then God will provide another guy or gal, and we will get behind them, and we're going to be okay. So to pretend this is the hardest times in history, it is not. Or not even close.
Or it's that time.
Or it's better yet. Yeah.
Right.
Better yet. If it's end times, right on. But I guess what I'm saying is my job does not change.
Right.
Period. Regardless of any of this, it just got a little more colorful.
That's how we decided to leave Missoula and come down here for 10 days or whatever it was. Yeah. My job doesn't change.
Right.
I know where I'm going. I know what data I have to operate from in terms of making that decision. And the data says, go where the community represents what your values are, so the Able Shepherd community. And if I can come down here and spend 10 days with my wife polishing skills that are... Did I hear you right? Did you say it's my job?
I thought that's what he said.
To protect my family? Did you say that's my job?
You know whose else's job it is? My job. To protect your family.
Agree.
With my kids, we joke about this. They go, ooh, that's old school. Well, you know about old school, you're 6, but that is like old school right there. Like the way it used to be is it's your job to protect your family. If you need help, it's also my job. If you're out of town or you're doing whatever, it's my job to protect your family.
Yeah.
Why? Because you're my friend, or even if you weren't and I didn't know you, but I know it's wrong to harm a child, and I'm not going to let that guy do it. And I don't even know the circumstances, but we're going to figure this out right now.
Right. So I think about that context in with the marketplace. So you look at a very limited marketplace, prices are out of control, and I'm choosing to come down here and engage in this community, engage in the training environment, and burn through. I used to think bullets were made out of lead and copper, and it turns out they're gold.
Absolutely.
And I'm just sending them
they're
down.
More than gold, I think.
I'm sending them down range like it's 2012.
Well,
yes, sir.
They're lead when you first start, and the more training you get, the better you get. They become gold.
Gotcha. But see, to me, that's the smartest thing I can do, because in this age where businesses are boarding up to protect against riots, where mobs are cruising streets, it makes the absolute most sense in the world to invest in how my brain engages with those externalities. I mean, if ever there was a time to train, now is the time to train.
I want to add to what you said about coming here.
Yeah.
Is if we were speaking for Jody and myself, and probably you based on what you just said, is if we were going to, say, Florida or somewhere on a vacation during this time.
I just remember you said, it's not like we're going skiing.
Right.
You know, we're leaving the house in the craziest time of our lives.
Right.
But it's not like we're going skiing. We're going to invest in myself and my skills with a community that you could plug right into. I'm sorry.
Well, no, but on top of that, though, is you go to those places, you're on your own.
Yeah.
And knowing, having already been here and having already developed relationships here, and knowing what Able Shepherd stands for, you're not just leaving home, you're going to your second home. Because there isn't a person in this group that would not take you in or protect you or help you or whatever. So you're protected.
Right.
So it was a lot easier to drive the 36 whatever hours knowing that I'm not by myself.
Right.
I got places I can go if I have to, if it comes down to it. So just that atmosphere is it's huge.
That's awesome. But I remember you said, like, was it yesterday or whatever, you were talking about something up here, and I go, oh yeah, that's a great guy. Well, what's this guy named that? Oh, he's a great guy. What about this guy? He's a great guy. You're like, I haven't met a not great guy. Like, they're all great. Like, everybody's great. And like, we're pretty blessed with our people.
And so Nick's talking about making this 36-hour drive. Well, who can't when they're driving around with a gas station? Like,
so, BK, you'll appreciate this. Christian pulls up, and it's cool because he's been praying for Nick Higgins, and he knows Nick and all this kind of stuff. But he's like telling him, and he said, "Who's the truck? That's Nick's truck." And Nick has a contractor, awesome diesel, this big yoked up truck with a fuel tank in the back. And he goes, "He's got his own gas station in the back of there." I'm like, yeah.
Well, the connected piece too is that, if you and I think about, we had very similar paths getting to the Able Shepherd community on a very similar timeline.
Yeah.
And here we are still today, right? In the most crazy political and economic time of my lifetime. And yet you and I are sitting at this table in the position to share what we've experienced over the last year. And to me, that poses the interesting question, how is that? Why is that? And so we talk about the community and being able to plug into this amazing group of folks. I think probably you were coming to some of the same conclusions I was in terms of what direction do I point my vehicle.
Right.
And how long are we willing to stay? And frankly, if you saw the inside of that van, you'd think I'm moving.
I love Nick. We need to put him in charge of our new PR rep or marketing guy. I don't even remember what the event was last time you were here. And maybe it's a 511 or something. Did you go to 511?
I did.
And some guy was like, we were talking about training, and he's like, Nick's from Maine. He's standing there and he goes, "What's wrong with you? You live here and you got this place right down the street. You don't even remember?" The guy's like, POP, like, how do I sign up? He's like, what is wrong with you? Like, how long I looked for something like this, and it's right down the street, and here you are not a member. They're like, I just came for boots or whatever. Stay up and be standing in the 511 store. That's pretty funny. How are we looking on time, BK? What's that? Keep going? What's that? Okay, so we're going to go ahead and end on that, guys, because I want to keep you here. I want to get another episode, so we're going to bring you guys back next week. Meaning we're going to put a stop in here. We're going to start it back over because we're still going to talk about, you guys don't know this yet, I want to hear in detail about your non-masker episode in Castle Rock, because I appreciate the way that you handled that. So we're going to talk about that, how you dealt with that person that wanted to have some words. How'd you hear about Abel Shepherd? We're going to go over that because it was similar, like you said, the same timeline. And that was pretty cool how that led. The reason, like you were saying, but yet here we are. What keeps people here coming back? Mm-hmm. What is that thing? And I've got that answer. You guys both know what it is. What are things like back home? We talked about that. What's available in your home states as far as training? You guys, both of you, have sought out in different states and different areas other training. So I'd like to hear about that. And obviously we were always looking to grow and what things we could do differently. And what did we get right? I'd love to hear that too, obviously, and so would my team. And then I got a couple surprise ones for you. So I know you love those. So anyways, on that, guys, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. So please be sure, tell your friends about this, share this podcast. The video version is just as good. We always talk about Perry Saul listens to the audio first and then goes back and watches the video, and he says they're even better. So he double hits them and share it. We believe what we're saying people want to hear. I think people want to be reassured they're not in the twilight zone, that there is good in this world, that this is a great nation that's worth defending, and we need to get back to the biblical foundation, quite frankly, that built this nation. So we're not done yet. We got a work cut out for us in this year to come, but we got more on that coming back next week. So and I always mess this up. Share it on Facebook. Is that you share on Facebook? Yeah. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe. Go on YouTube. Visit ProtectorCulturePodcast.com to listen or watch the videos or wherever you get your podcasts. And don't forget to talk about Able Nation. This episode brought to you by able-nation.org, and we'll talk about them on the next episode. So thank you guys. Until we see you again, God bless each and every one of you. Take care of one another.